Now I want to talk about influencer pay gaps. The Instagram account at Influencer Pay Gap has exposed that Black and brown influencers are being paid a lot less than white influencers. Also, in addition to that, an LGBT plus influencer was paid £12,000 less, and an influencer with a disability was asked to create content for no fee at all. The Creative Union is becoming the UK's first collective body to represent digital content creators and influencers. So I wanted to ask you, do you think unionisation will solve the influencer pay gap problem? And do you think it will be beneficial for Black influencers to have their separate union as well?
So I don't know if forming a union is going to solve the problem, but I think it will definitely help and make necessary changes.
Right.
Unions, when they're independent, as they should be, independent and really there for the rights of the people that they represent, like really help, because a lot of people don't know what their rights are. And companies, brands, industries will take advantage of you if you don't know what you should know, if you don't know your rights, if you don't know what's legal. And trade unions are usually there to just really help people get what it is that they deserve and not be taken advantage of. And I definitely think that's needed in the influencer world, because let's be very clear, like I don't blame brands all the way, because influencing is a very new industry. Like it's cropped up in the past, 20 years, which might seem long, but in terms of like the car industry and the engineering industry, and like, it's a very, very new market. So there isn't a lot of regulation going on. So I can understand where it's difficult to know how to charge, but where brands do get into trouble is because they're taking advantage of it now. So I think someone needs to definitely come in like a union and make it fair for people across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with most of what you said, Sophie. I don't think the union is going to completely solve the problem, but I think it will be able to drive some sort of necessary change. So I definitely agree that I think influencers should get a union and put a union together. I know obviously there's, I can't remember that lady's name, but she's obviously put work together to get the first UK kind of digital creators union, because influencers for me are kind of like, well, they are self-employed people. Yeah. And usually when you're like a one-man band, if somebody is doing you a disservice or if you're having an issue with business, it's kind of hard when it's just you to kind of fight a big corporation or a big brand. And very much like what you were saying, Sophie, it is a new industry. So some influencers may not know. And I think this is what that Instagram did very well. It kind of filled in all the blanks for everybody, because some influencers may not know what is the standard of what I should be getting. What should I be making this video? And I think for a lot of brands as well, especially probably not now, but definitely a lot in the beginning, they probably didn't even know, how much should I actually pay this influencer? What does their outreach like? It's all very new territory, and I think a union would work perfectly in this situation, because the brand obviously has their whole team and legal team or whoever to represent them, and a union will be the person that will fight for the influencer and fight for them. So definitely. Do I think there needs to be a specific one for Black creators? I'm kind of on the fence about that, because I think anytime there's something that's focusing on your one specific issue and is only focusing on that and giving all the energy to it, then I'm always here for it, because that means they've got one clear focus and that's what they're aiming to achieve.
I get that.
But if there was one that just encompassed all digital creators, but then, you know, really paid attention to the needs of Black creators, but they did it well, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Just as long as someone's fighting the fight for the people.
Yeah. So I understand what you both are saying in terms of the influencer profession being very new, but that's not actually what the issue is that is being raised. Because of course there's going to be companies that don't really know as much as we don't know, because there's no transparency in salary. But what the conversation is about is pay gap. Because there was a Black influencer who was asked to collaborate with a company, and that same company accidentally sent her a message that was meant for a white influencer. And in the message that they sent her for the white influencer, they were offering the white influencer money when they weren't offering that to the black influencer. And so the black woman went on the white woman's page and saw that the black woman actually even had more followers. So I struggle to get my head around it, because it's clear that you are not valuing black content creators. But if you don't value them, then why did you fix your thumbs to message them in the first place? Like, if you don't value their creativity, then just leave them alone. Why are you reaching out to them, but then offering them less than you are offering other white influencers? And especially in that case, because if that girl has more followers, and the reason why influencers are valued, the reason why they have influence is because they have large followings. And if she could give you more outreach and yet you were not offering her money, we need to talk about why that is.
So what's the issue for you then? Because we're talking about trade unions and things like that. What is actually the issue for you, the way that you see it?
No, I don't understand why black creators are not being paid the same as white creators. Like, do you see what I'm saying?
I understand, but you were saying that talking about the brands in terms of it being a new industry isn't really the issue.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying...
No. You got... Go ahead.
No, go on.
So because the way that it sounded like to me, the way what you guys were saying, it's like, okay, being an influencer is new and all of those things. And yet for me, that's separate, because when you are a company and you know that you are collaborating with influencers and you have two influencers, one of them can offer you more outreach, but you're not offering this person money. And the one that can offer you less outreach, you are offering a fund, and they also happen to be white. Why is that happening? That's what I need to know. That's what I'm questioning.
I think some of it is happening because people are taking in preconceived ideas into the way that they go after market. So I think brands are still thinking that if you're white, if you're able-bodied, if you're cisgendered, if you're straight size, that's going to be more attractive because that's what we say in society. And I think that it's obviously underpinned by racism, but I think they're thinking, oh, but this is going to be more attractive. This is going to be more sellable. But I agree that there needs to be more equality in the way that they do things. And I think that unions can help with that. But I think part of it isn't going to happen. And that's why I mentioned it being a new industry until certain regulations come in. Because when you work in a normal job, there is the Equality Act that says you cannot discriminate against someone because of their gender, their race, their culture, their marital status, their sex. You can't discriminate. But because it's a new industry, there are no regulations. So it makes it much easier to have these different pay gaps in them, because they're like, well, there are no rules. We can just do it based on whatever we want, which I agree is completely wrong. But let's not get it twisted. Like, look, I'm going to tell you a very true story. And this is from a big influencer that I know. And she says, a really big female black influencer, who I'm not going to name at all because we're going to get in trouble. But they were saying that she had it written into her contract that she wouldn't work on projects if there was another black creator there. She must be the only black creator. And I was just like, what?
Gosh.
And she was just like, Sophie, it's the truth. Her ex-manager showed me the contract and it was in there. She wouldn't work on any other projects if someone black was there. So it's not just the white brands who are trying to do it. Some people are only out for their own bag. And that's why I'm saying it's not brands have to come together. Influencers have to come together. Because if what we saw with Jeremy Tardy, who used to be on Dear White People, and he was getting underpaid by Lionsgate.
Yes.
I'm not sure what character he was, but he wrote on Twitter.
I can't remember his name. I can't remember his name on the show, but I know you're talking. Yes, go.
He was saying he was getting underpaid, and he was saying he got together with the other 6 other leads from Netflix on the show. And let's be clear, I watched the film of Dear White People, and there's a lot of black main characters. He's got together with 6 of them because they were saying a lot of the black ones were getting underpaid. So he said, if we form together, then we're going to have more power. And he said before they could even negotiate, a lot of them got bought out on separate deals and kind of left him standing. And he was still saying, I am going to walk away because you're not treating me right. So let's not get it twisted that this is just about race and all the black people are together, because they're not. Some people only care about protecting themselves. So we have to put in rules. We have to put in unions. We have to put in all of this stuff because it's just a messy situation.
Sorry, not to piggyback off what you're saying, Sophie, that's why for me I think unions in this market is so important, so we can do collective bargaining and there's not this like stabbing in the back, if that's what you want to call it. But I also just want to point out as well, not to like take anyone's side, but sometimes even though someone could have less followers than you, their engagement can be higher, and that's why they may get a higher fee, because even though you can have a big audience, if they're not willing to pay for anything that you're selling, then it's not really worth advertising with that particular influencer. So I think engagement plays a big role in it as well. And that's why, but that's once again something that needs to be transparent. And I think the union's going to help bring transparency to that industry for the brands and for the creators, and then that way as well it can start to foster a bit more equality, well, because they're going to have to be equal by law, in that the union's going to have to push for fairness and equality. Sorry, my headphones keep dropping in. The union's going to have to push for fairness and equality if then they see, okay, you know what, actually our black influencers, they're not getting paid the same amount as our white influencers, so we need to change this regulation or do X, Y, Z, rather than an Instagram account has been made and people are now kind of just, we've got this information but nothing has been done too much about it. That's why I think the union.
Okay, so with the Instagram account, she is actually doing a lot of things. Like, I definitely agree that the union is a good start, and I agree with you in terms of transparency, Anissa, because I think, you know, you don't, like we said, like we keep saying, like being an influencer, there's not really a rule book to go off of. There's not really like, oh, you should be paid this minimum or this and this and that. And there aren't things behind us so that we know whether or not we're being taken advantage of. And yeah, companies definitely take advantage of that as well. So I definitely think there needs to be like allies between each other, like no matter the race, because for example, there was a black influencer who went and did a modeling gig, and she said, okay, you can pay me £100. And then she went there and she met a white model who was getting paid £1,000. Yeah. But she didn't know. She didn't know what she could charge.
She didn't know what to ask.
Yeah, she didn't know. Yeah, she didn't know how to like value it and how to value her worth and things like that. The influencer pay gap Instagram page does look at engagement and outreach and all of that stuff. Like, that's the first thing that the influencers who come for help mention. And so I think it's difficult because like reading all these stories like does confuse me, but at the same time, I just think companies, are you not just making more mess for yourself by not being fair? Can't you just offer everyone a base rate and see what
people like to get away with things.
Exactly, and I think that's why it's so important.
People like to get away with everything.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important with the influencer pay gap Instagram. I think it was started by Adorusu Adejayi. And what's so wonderful about it, because it reveals what people are earning. And it's very anti-British. Like, we don't discuss money. And that's why brands are able to get away with this. We don't. Like, if I sat at a dinner table with you, Anissa, I'm like, so what do you earn a year? You'd be like, what? Why is that any of your business? Like,
oh, did you say we don't talk about money? Is that
we don't talk about money as British people.
I thought you said something else, and I was like, huh? Yeah.
No, we don't. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about what people earn, and that's how companies get away with things. Because I think it was Insecure, but it happens in real life where Molly in Insecure found out that someone who worked in the same law firm said she was a lawyer, and a male lawyer was getting more money than her, but doing the same job, and she only found out because she happened upon his wage slip. And my thing is, this thing happens all the time when we don't have open conversations about money. This is how brands are able to get away with things, and that's why the Instagram page is so important, because people have found a safe space to talk about money. Because not everyone is going to be like that Instagram you mentioned, Luanda, who's going to be on the photo shoot and say, how much are you earning for this? And we need to be more upfront about it so that they can't take advantage. There needs to be true allyship. And something that Chadwick Boseman did that was amazing. I don't know if you guys saw it with Sienna Miller.
I did.
And she was saying that she asked for money on the film 21 Bridges, and they said, we can't pay it. And she said she's refusing now to accept money that is below her worth. And he says, you shouldn't. And then he took some of his money and gave it to her and said, I will top up to what it is that you want, because I want you on this film. And we need to have allyship in influencers as well, to say that actually I'm going to reveal what I'm getting and not just
that's what I'm talking about.
So I'm the only person catching the bag out here, and everyone can be fair for everyone, because influencing is hard work. We are all women who are creative. We have Instagram accounts It is not easy to kind of keep your feed up, to keep posting, to get the right light, to get the right video, to edit. It all takes money. And I think sometimes they are not paying because they don't realize that you were taking time out of people's work. And if you're not paying them as an influencer, you don't have sick pay. You don't have holiday pay.
No.
You don't have pension pay. Like, whatever you want to give me for free ain't paying my bills. So there needs to be respect for what the work that people are doing and recognize it as hard work.
Yeah,
Well said.
definitely. Someone was offered wine and cheese for some content.
Girl, I saw that. I was just like, what? Like,
did you see the post when they said,
did
does
not see
anyone
that.
know a bank that accepts wine and cheese?
I did not see that. LOL, that is crazy.
no,
Wine and cheese, you know. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You know, this kind of happened to me one time. I was on set. You know what? Let me not tell this story. I'll tell you guys after we finish. So,
No, we want this story.
No.
You better
No, if you
tell
don't
us,
like
Lisa.
it, say it
I'll tell
later.
really quickly,
Say it
really quickly.
later.
So no, we I'm not going to get in trouble. I'll be fine. We were on set and we actually just had a conversation with each other and we ended up on the topic of money. And then we realized that some people weren't getting paid the agreed amount. And it was because, you know, actors can come from different avenues. You might have an actor off like a website where they have their headshot and their CV. You might have an actor from an agent. You might have an actor from someone that you know. And they were able to kind of do a little sneaky situation. But then because we just got along really well and we talked about it. And then when we brought up the issue, they were almost mad. No, not almost mad. They were mad that we discussed money. They were like, well, why the actors talking? We're on set for at least 12 hours together. What else do you think
Yes,
we're going to
what
do?
else is going to happen?
This is my point. They
Right.
feed off people staying silent. So we need to be honest. And Anissa, please tell
People
us how
like to
much
be
you earn a year.
sneaky.
Yeah,
People like to be sneaky.
for sure,
Sneaky.
for sure.